I don't know where he thought he was, but to come out in front of all those kids and basically tell them that the whole human enterprise is so goddamn corrupt that the best thing they could possibly do is limit their multiplication, and to think of himself as a scholar and an educator was just, I did say something, by the way. It was rather uncomfortable, and he stomped off the stage. But that's no message for young people. There's no excuse for that. And you think, well, we're going to destroy the planet. We have to do this. We have to demoralize the youth to be ethical. It's like, yeah, really, that's your theory? You're going to demoralize young people to be ethical?
Incoming freshmen next year, University of Toronto, Stanford University, 18-year-old kids coming into this. We've been through 3 years of COVID. I won't rehearse it all. Mm-hmm. One sentence. What would you say to them as they begin university at the age of 18 or 19? What's the restorative, the redemptive sentence? What should they do?
Don't be thinking your ambition is corrupt. Because that's part of the message now. Human beings, we're a cancer on the planet. We're headed for an environmental apocalypse. The entire historical structure is nothing but atrocity, etc., etc. Anyone with any ethical aim whatsoever is just going to pull back. You don't want to manifest any ambition, support the patriarchal structure, exploit the environment. You've got to crush yourself down. You shouldn't even have any children. It's like, no. There's no excuse for that.
Right here, Peterson drops a truth bomb, and you can feel the frustration bubbling under the surface. It's like he's calling out a bad coach who tells the team, "We're all terrible players, so why bother showing up?" Imagine being 18, full of potential, and hearing someone say, "Hey, your best move in life is to stop existing." That's the kind of message that deflates the human spirit faster than a balloon at a porcupine party. Sure, we need to be mindful of the environment, but telling young people to curb their ambition because humanity is inherently bad? That's like fixing a flat tire by slashing the other three. Where's the hope?
There's zero excuse for that. I saw a professor at an event, something like this. He came out and trumpeted this bloody, environmentally friendly house he built. And, fair enough, man. It was a pretty interesting house, but not everybody had the $4 million that it took him to build it. And I'm not criticizing his money even. It's like, he's had some money, good for him. He built a house, okay. But then to trumpet that as a moral virtue, well, you're pushing it there. And then he came out to all the kids and he said, my wife and I decided that we were only going to have one child. And I think that's one of the most ethical things we could have possibly done. And I would strongly encourage you to do the same. I thought, you son of a bitch. You get up in front of these young people. A lot of these kids were children of first-generation immigrants from China. And he showed all these images, of these terrible factories in China, these endless rows of sterile mechanism that were subordinating all the Chinese people to this terrible, capitalist machine. And I thought, you don't understand. Half the audience is looking at those factories and thinking, that's a hell of a lot better than struggling through the mud under Mao, buddy.
This part is where Peterson swings for the fences, and honestly, he's got a point. Context matters. Telling a room full of students, many of whom come from backgrounds where progress means moving beyond hardship, that industrialization is the enemy, can feel tone deaf. It's like giving someone a ladder out of a hole and then criticizing them for climbing too fast. Sure, the system has flaws, but for many, it's still better than the alternative. Here's a takeaway. Progress doesn't have to be perfect to be progress.
And so, I don't know where he thought he was, but to come out in front of all those kids and basically tell them that the whole human enterprise is so goddamn corrupt that the best thing they could possibly do is limit their multiplication, and to think of himself as a scholar and an educator was just, I did say something, by the way. It was rather uncomfortable, and he stomped off the stage. But that's no message for young people. There's no excuse for that. And you think, well, we're going to destroy the planet. We have to do this. We have to demoralize the youth to be ethical. It's like, yeah, really, that's your theory? You're going to demoralize young people to be ethical? That's your theory?
And now we're in the thick of it. Peterson is taking on the idea that guilt and shame are the path to ethics. It's like trying to teach someone to swim by tossing them into a stormy ocean and yelling, "Figure it out." You can see why this rubs him the wrong way. Young people need encouragement, not existential dread. If we tell them their only contribution to the world is less of them, we're robbing them of the drive to make things better. It's like saying, you can't fix the car because it's already a clunker. Where's the room for hope, creativity, or growth?
It's like you should go home and think about that for like a year. And I'm passionate about this, because You have no idea how many people that's killing. You have no idea. I see people everywhere, all over the world. They're so demoralized. Especially young people. Especially young people with a conscience. Because they've been told since they were little that there's nothing to them but corruption and power.
Here's where Peterson's passion really hits home. Think about the weight of growing up under a narrative that humanity is inherently corrupt. It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. No matter how hard you work, you're told it's going to sink. Imagine being a young person with big dreams, only to hear that the world doesn't need you or your ideas. Peterson is challenging this defeatist mindset and saying, hold up. What if we encouraged ambition and responsibility instead of guilt? That's not just a critique, it's a call to action.
It's like, how the hell do you expect them to react? You know, well, I shouldn't do anything then, you know.
Let's take a step back and piece this together. What's Peterson really saying here? He's not denying the challenges humanity faces. Climate change, inequality, corruption, they're real and they're serious. But his argument is that the way forward isn't through tearing down young people's ambition. Instead, it's about inspiring them to aim high, take responsibility, and believe they can make a positive impact. Think about it this way. If we want a better world, we can't create it by telling the next generation to step aside. Imagine telling someone at the start of a marathon, you're not going to win, so why bother running? It's not just demotivating, it's destructive. Instead, we need to hand them the baton and cheer them on, reminding them that their effort matters, even if the finish line feels far away. Peterson's passion here is a reminder that ambition isn't the enemy, it's the engine of progress. The message isn't to ignore the problems, but to tackle them with hope, creativity, and grit. At the end of the day, every great innovation, every social movement, every piece of progress comes from someone who believed they could make a difference. And isn't that the message we all need to hear? That no matter how big the challenges, we're not too small to rise to meet them. So let's pass that hope along, because if we don't believe in the future, who will?